live, then we will time it right.
Ah,
Hello.
ah.
Hi,
did you press it?
everyone.
Oh, what's up? Hey, everyone. I
You
knew
didn't
that we were
realize we're live.
starting. What?
Oh, man.
What's
We
up,
got your
everyone?
Tim
Thank you for dropping
Hortons.
by.
Yeah. Hi, James. Hi, Gwen. Hi, Jackson. Hi,
trying to figure-
Nona. Hi, Royal.
Let's go. All right, I'm trying to figure out. Sponsored by Tim Hortons today.
Yeah. Are you in the land of the up north where
Toronto,
people
eh?
are shaped like eggs?
Visiting my Crodies.
Huh?
Visiting my Crodies.
What's a Crody?
My brothers.
Oh.
Crody is Toronto and for friend.
Oh.
Crody?
I didn't realize they have their own words.
Oh yeah. Definitely. You just gotta listen to more Drake, Kristen. You'll pick it up.
Oh well, I'm gonna play our intro music instead of Drake.
I don't want to play Drake as their intro music. That's a hot mess right now. What's up, everybody?
Hi, Tudorizer. Hi. Buenos noches, Farcaster, who might be Crypto, One Moon, Priyanka,
Gwen. She gives out words. Apparently, one is patience.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, do you have any patience this week?
I've been really good this week. Notice. I didn't nag you this week. Nor did I bring up random things like, oh no, X has happened. We gotta do Y.
Yes.
I'm so proud of myself.
That is true. I think so. I think also we definitely need to make changes this week. And by we, I mean Cameron needs to get his act together.
Well, you need to put on your hat, so I'm not the only cooped up one. Everyone's talking. Winter is coming, man. Well, it is starting to get cold, but I wanted to look a little different. And Cameron's probably got the cooler hat.
Yeah, of course.
Toque, as they call it in Canada, with their own words.
Dude, love it. What's up, James? All right, so you had patience with yourself, which is good. Did you have a patience with other people? Oh yeah, you did with me.
With you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gosh. There's been a nutso week. I haven't had patience with myself this week. I'm trying to. That's like my biggest. I would say that's like my biggest bucket of like self-criticism. I'm very impatient with how I perform, how I like act, and even after I do the things, like I'm very impatient with like the amount of work that I did and the amount of output that I want from it, if that makes sense.
I mean, it sounds like the huge.
Yeah. The one thing that I have gotten, not like recently, but in my life overall, is I've gotten a lot better with patience in the gym and with like physical fitness and exercise and lifting. Because I used to, if anybody follows like lifters online, Mike Israetel, I've been like going deep on some Dr. Mike content, a bit of fan for a minute. And he had one little clip that just hit pretty hard, and it was like paraphrasing, it's a lot of fun to bully the weight, but if you aren't controlling, especially the eccentric part of the lift and like stretching at the bottom of the lift, it is basically making all your lifts ego lifts instead of useful towards the purposes that you're trying to work towards, and that it kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, because you're trying to bodybuild now, right? And like in powerlifting, we don't care about that. We want to be able to ego lift to some extent. Yeah. For those who don't know, Mike Israetel is just like gorilla bald guy.
weird shaped head. Honestly, the trajectory I'm on.
And he gets like bullied a lot by Greg Doucette. Do you watch the other stuff about him? The Mike Israetel ecosystem of content.
I know that like he's a bit, his like sexuality is a bit, and like things like that. Is that what you mean?
No, like his whole thing right now, or for a while, was like he was trying to get his IFBB Pro card, which is a major accomplishment in bodybuilding.
Right.
Because like he has like, built like Renaissance periodization and like a lot of exercise stuff, and I think he feels like right, and he has his doctorate and whatever, but then like he feels like he hasn't proved himself. So then he went through this whole grind where he took like shit ton of gear. Oops, I'm the one swearing today. And like
I'm infecting your brain.
And gear is steroids and other drugs to try to be big enough, right? And vascular enough to be on a show. But like he's not genetically gifted enough to handle all of it. Like he talks about his roid rages. And then like and also like his body just never quite got the shape. Because like sadly in bodybuilding, like there's a certain shape that people want to be in. And you got to have the narrow waist. Yeah, I think you and I talked about it, how my brother's into bodybuilding, so I grew up with these like extremely realistic expectations of how people should look like.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the muscle and fitness magazine, the mainstream magazines. We're talking about muscular development, like the Ronnie Coleman and like the giant guys.
Yeah, the inhuman monsters. That I think is maybe one of the So here's my bias coming through. I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'9" on a tall day. I was always like slightly pudgy growing up, and like I was a year younger than everybody in terms of sports age cutoffs. Like I started school like right before the age cutoff, and all the sports in Georgia were on that. So I was terrible at sports, and but like looking back on it, a good chunk of it was a result of like just me not being developmentally at the same stage as the person who had an extra year of like puberty growth on me, right?
Yeah.
But like you don't realize that as a kid. You just like realize that
Malcolm Gladwell book was not out yet.
Yeah, facts. and so like that as I got older, I started reflecting on that. I've talked a little bit about body dysmorphia stuff, but Nike periodically does Nike or Sports Illustrated does an Olympic body series, or at least they did previously, and that kind of made everything click to me about like it's like I'm not trying to diminish the amount of work that goes into being an Olympic level athlete, but I think you're insane if you don't say, yeah, also part of Michael Phelps' reign of like domination was his giant like airplane wing hands and his wingspan that was, bigger than he is tall, like, and his like mermaid lower half of his body. Like if he didn't have that, there's just no way he'd be Michael Phelps. And like, it's really tough to explain that to somebody who wants to like,
and then like my soapbox thing is like we gotta find the sport that our bodies are designed for, and it may not be an obvious one because there's like so like few limited choices for the average person to access, right? Like my sport ended up being like powerlifting, but probably because of my ancestry is like carrying bags of rice or something. But then like there is something to my body type that is more suited to like lifting heavy big thing. But I wouldn't have known that until I tried it. Like I'm not like running. I can do a little bit of endurance running, but I'm just like not quite good at like climbing. Like those are things I'm not actually good at, and I feel like most people don't know what they're good at because you haven't, because we don't have access to try every single sport out there.
Yeah, I've so I had a little sister growing up. I mean, I still have a little sister.
I hope she's okay.
But I think this also applies to certain, not sports, but they're like super athletic pursuits anyway, like, as well. And so like I think one of the common one for women is like ballerinas, ballet dancers, right? Like unfortunately, you can know pretty quick as someone's growing up whether they're like destined to be a ballerina or not. And so like I always find that fascinating. You want to get into these bangers before we go on another hour-long episode about body dysmorphia?
100%. Yeah. So you tend to chat while I try to pull things up.
Yeah. The Furquan asks, I would like to know who chooses the title for your podcast. We both do. The yes, and Bashi, I did make it. I got my Timmy's. My Tim Hortons. Didn't get any Timbits today though. But yeah, made it in the nick of time. I was setting up the camera and stuff till right before the call. All right.
Unlike Cameron, I can see everybody when I'm sharing my screen. So Cameron, you're gonna have to drive the conversation.
Okay. All right, so this one is from Royal Aid, and it is a kind of a punch to the gut. It's a still from an anime. I'm not sure what anime of I think a boxer and a farmer, and all it says is the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. This one pisses me off because it's so correct. What was the last time you experienced this?
Like every single minute.
Can you explain what it means to somebody that like hasn't had this moment?
Has any human being not have had this moment though?
I think so. I think there's a lot of people who are in a position when they have to do work that they don't particularly enjoy. I think that there's a lot of locus of control kind of like issues in there, whether like learned or actual in their life. I also think that like many people haven't either had the opportunity or spent the time doing the work to realize what they want to happen. Like when I was in the Army, I did a lot of the work, but like the work wasn't my work. The work was Army's work. And
so how do you find the magic in that?
Well, so like, so when, because I have friends that are still in, and I have people that ask me like, why'd you get out? I could count. So I had somebody who had been in for a while and he was retiring, and I asked him why he was retiring instead of staying in, because he could have gone on and become like a sergeant major, like big enlisted, rank. And he was like, "Sir, I can count on one hand how many times I was like doing Army stuff, and I was like, man, this is so sick." And then if I compare that to the amount of times that I was like, man, this is terrible, or this is the worst day of my life, the weight of the worst day of my life severely, like the number of worst days of my life severely outweighs the good days or the awesome times. So that kind of got in my brain, and I was just like, oh yeah, no, that tracks. Like I have been cold, sweaty, hot, miserable, in pain, dirty way more often than I've been like, oh, this is sick, because you just blow something up or whatever.
I feel like the magic here is that when you describe all of that, like in my mind, it's pretty cinematic, you know? Like I'm imagining
it is.
Just, like, dying in a desert. But at the time, you wouldn't have imagined it that way. Or like known that this random person would start imagining a romanticized version of your boring life. So like, and I feel like that's the key with this image, is that like there's the sunset and it's like the whole like cinematic, like, you know, Rocky sort of thing going on. And like, how can we have that before our daily lives? Like a third person cinematic view of like even the boring stuff. Like if you film it, it's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I found recording kind of like slices of life being helpful. Casts for me are a way of doing that kind of as I go about my day. I also think taking more pictures helps.
Like even when you're like doing something really boring.
Yeah, like, you know, you're so Frank and I, my partner on Seymour, we were up in Colorado. We kind of got like a because we got together to do a week of work in conjunction with like some Farcaster events and some other events. And we got kind of like an okay Airbnb in kind of like a not nice area of town. And like it was fine because we could like walk around. But like as we did things, even though we were just like mostly spending our time in this Airbnb writing code, we like took a picture in front of it in case like we ever make it successful. And now we have like a little snapshot of that. Like I would take a picture of the place that we got like the really good, you know, tortas from like the Mexican food. And so like little bits like that, the picture might suck, but I think it's like the moment of reflection, which is potentially how you add like the texture of, oh, this is doing the work to like feel the magic of the thing. That sometimes works for me.
I love that. Oh, I also love how you know, Royal said resentfully, I relent. This is the way. I think that makes the meme even better.
Yeah.
All right. And here we have Kevin MFer, fan favorite. Ooh, yeah. I have not seen this one. Man, my mom drinks Nescafe Gold.
So for audio, it is the classic midwit meme. On the left and right curve, there's instant coffee. I think it's, what is it, Nescafe?
Yes, Nescafe Gold, the instantized coffee.
And then in the middle is the Starbucks, is the espressos, is all the fancy coffee drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one because it's kind of a, like, one, I like nice coffee, but I generally tend to just do the thing that is like the easiest. Like if it's in front of me, I'll order a nice coffee, but like I'm not going to go out of my way usually to do it unless it's like the
what do you drink when you're not drinking your little Dunkies and your little Timmies?
So I have honestly, I don't know what it's called because it's a Chinese brand that Frank gave me, and I was like, oh, this is great, instant coffee. And then I also have a thing of the red Nescafe. I'll bring it to another stream because it's back in
all right.
Austin.
And chat, I'm curious how your coffee routine is, if something you drink.
I'm curious if you get this one, Krista.
No.
All right, so it is a it's a internet, it's like a Reddit mod on the left hand side of the meme asking for the source. It's like a big fancy math equation.
Is that the Reddit mod face?
It's kind of like a joke that's like what the average Redditor looks like.
Oh.
And then on the right side, it has an Indian man, and it says, "It was revealed to me in a dream," underneath the math equation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a niche one, but it's like not as niche on Farcaster because there's a lot of nerds. But this is a guy named Ramanujan. Yeah.
Oh.
And so he's basically one of the most famous Indian math prodigies.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was so incredible at like intuitively understanding numbers. Like this kind of stuff did come to him in his dreams.
Oh, that's nice.
But it's like interesting because it didn't come to him in his dreams when he was like a child math prodigy, although like that kind of like he was phenomenal at math even then. Like a 13-year-old better at math than like either of us will ever be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's interesting to think about the connection between patience and having these moments of insight like this. Because when you do something for a long time, when you study a problem for a long time, when you like pursue something for longer than most people, you do have these flashes of insight. Like it's not going to solve everything all the time, just like magically. But like when you stew on something for a minute, I've been surprised at how consistently I end up solving the problem I'm trying to solve, just like as a result of sitting with the problem for a long time.
Like subconsciously, you are running all the programs to make it make sense.
Yeah, ostensibly that's what's happening. And so
yeah, and I think there's also like this whole idea of like Richard Feynman had this idea of like your 12 favorite problems. Yeah. Where like if you construct your life around like 12 questions that are, of course, like, you know, kind of hard, then that gives you a meaningful life kind of thing. And I do believe in that philosophy. But it's really easy to forget that when you're like dealing with your email, like filing your taxes.
Yeah, like email is its own prickly can of worms because you have like this dual competing both reasonable takes of Cal Newport. Hey, I don't answer emails ever. And like that empowers him to do his deep work, his best work. But you also have people like, you know, Mark Andreessen saying the best founders that I know respond to all my emails within 1 minute. And like both of those things are true, but they also conflict. Right. And so, or at least they conflict in like what the thing that is being communicated is actually revealing. And so I just find this stuff so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh dang it. Okay, let's keep going. I something else will come back up. I had a thought, but I'll bring it back.
Yeah, I used to be that person who would reply like within the minute. And actually I have changed my style to like, speaking of patience, to like let things simmer a little longer.
Yeah.
But I think the Mark Andreessen situation, well, the unspoken thing is like, how well do you curate your inbox such that your main investor, Mark Andreessen, appears high priority in your inbox list? So it's like, there's a systems thing that's unspoken here.
Yeah, and I to extend that even a little bit further, the CEOs that can respond to emails, whether it's like that or customer service within a minute, usually have like a team behind them doing a lot of like at least the technical deep work. Like
Right.
I had a conversation or like a brief conversation. I won't say who, because they didn't say that I could. I think I could, but I don't want to. But I basically was asked like, hey, how do you get anything done? Because you basically only do customer service now, or like that's what it feels like. And they're just like, I haven't gotten anything done myself since like 2021. Like before then, I was deep in every single like actual mechanical thing that was happening. But as soon as their company got big enough, he's like, that's all that I can focus on, and I can't concentrate for longer than a couple minutes at a time because that's my job now.
Right. And this is a person that we all know.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So Oxen.
Consider the network state guru who promised to build the network school on Farcaster hasn't posted here in a month. The cabal is not going to save you. I love this sentiment. It's so easy for, I think, all of us to just sit and be like, oh yeah, no, this problem is going to get solved for me. By somebody else who has more resources, more time, more power, more influence, whatever. And like, it just never freaking happens. You know, like every once in a while, you'll get like a little crumb of a solution for that kind of thing. And like, I don't even consider it malicious. I just think it's like, when people are important, everybody wants a piece of their time. And so like any individual person's request matters less to them because they have so many other things that they're dealing with. And so like in this case, it's kind of like Farcaster specific, but it's really like the general case of if you're faced with something that is materially impacting your life, like sure, somebody might solve it for you eventually, but usually it just makes sense for you to start doing the work yourself.
I did not see that part because I was like, oh, but Oxen, like they're busy doing the network school thing in Singapore.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that's awkward. Okay. Oh, I also like a thief's response. There's no cabal. I love you. Which a thief broke the usual grammatical thing. I should have said thief loves you.
Do you think that there's a cabal?
There are many cabals.
Yeah.
But and I mean, you know, I'm just semi-joking, right? By cabals, I mean like a lot of group chats. But then like, I don't expect any of them to save me. I don't know. I feel like maybe this is unhealthy. Maybe I have too much agency where I feel like, no, I can save myself.
Yeah.
Which is I think like not super healthy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% a trauma response, right? Like somebody who grew up within a well-adjusted community with a lot of support doesn't feel like they have to solve all their problems, all other things being equal, right?
Oh my gosh.
But like the reality of humanity and agency and like any of the infinite things that you come across in your life. Like, I think when in doubt, trying to solve your own problem is one of the most empowering things that you can do. At VMI, my college, the Virginia Military Institute, there's one phrase that you hear over and over and over and over again until it's like seared into your subconscious forever. And it's really simple. It's figure it out, rat. And so all the freshmen are rats. That's like your name for the year. Like you can't even say I, actually. You say this rat. It's like a very cult-like indoctrination process.
Oh.
But but it's good because it like makes you and all of your
what does the military and furries have in common?
Yeah, you know, there's more than a few things like that. But like the beautiful thing about figure it out, rat, is at least in the game of the military college, all of the things are within you, like really within your control, because you have a book with all the rules. It has like pictures on how to wear your uniform. Like the things that you're figuring out aren't high level physics problems. It's like, oh, how do I put on and lace my shoes properly? How do I like wear this overcoat in the winter? Like, it's like, how do I march? And all of those things are well within everybody's control there, because there's like a filter to make sure that everybody can meet those basic standards. And like a lot of the times when I run against something, I like tell myself, oh dude, Rat, figure it out, Rat, like you can do this. And it's been really, really helpful.
It's similar to the Grug channel. So like, do you own a Grug channel, or do you just happen to mod it? Oh, okay. I really love that one. Like, and you have a ritual going on or something right now where you ask what we're up to, but in Grug terms. That is so amazingly clarifying every single time.
That's funny.
Because like you force us to reply in simple caveman terms. And I'm like, yeah, my problem is not so complicated if I reply and think about it in a Grug style. So that's what I think of.
I saw somebody, so in Cursor, which is the code editor I use now, it has like basically AI shortcuts. And so like when you're trying to do something, you can like very easily query like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever. And somebody tweeted about how they modified the initial prompts for it to respond in Grug terms.
That's so good.
And like I have the prompt that they use, and I haven't like put it in as like the master prompt yet, but I think I'm gonna put it in today or tomorrow, because like it's so it's just funny. And like I think if you can do something that consistently adds micro laughs to your day, like even if it's the dumbest thing you can think of, like I think you should do it.
Yes, I agree.
Especially
please share the prompt with the rest of us.
I will. But like, yeah, like dumb things like having, like I bought that little crab pen holder that I casted about the other day. Whenever I see that stupid little rave crab, I'm like, huh. And like it cost me like 90 cents on TikTok Shop, I think, and I get a little laugh out of it every time I see it. That's crazy return on my investment for that.
It is. And I get a laugh every time you mention the TikTok rave crab, because I imagine you going on TikTok Shop, be like, I'm gonna buy this. And I'm always like, who buys stuff on TikTok Shop over at Cameron?
Me. No, they get me. They get me. I bought a. This one's a little cringe, but I bought a. Did you play Pokemon? You said you played Game Boy all the time, right? So you remember Lavender Town on the OG Pokemon?
Yeah.
So I bought a Lavender Town T-shirt that has like a Haunter on the back. It's pretty sick.
Oh, that's very cool. All right, next stream, please wear that. And yeah, I didn't realize that you had picked my cast as a banger.
I actually don't remember picking it, but we're looking at it now.
Yeah. Or did I just have it open? This is so funny. I just self-inserted. But yeah, like this casted remark. This is probably one of my most popular casts ever, and I totally did it on a whim, which is so funny.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, like so apparently every Wednesday is Waterfall Wednesday on the Nature Channel. I just like haven't seen the little cast about it.
No idea.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm eligible to win anything because my timing. But like, I was like, you know what? I do have a ton of photos of Yosemite because I'm very lucky to be able to go quite often. This was a particularly wet year where lots of snow, so that pretty much like flooded most of the valley. So apparently this is a pretty rare shot to take, which I did not know until my friend told me about it. So I was lucky to have friends who are more in sync with what's happening in nature too.
Dude, one of my favorite things about, I guess, the universe is the serendipity of accidentally stumbling on rare things. Because like obviously everything happens all the time, and so there's always something rare that's happening, which is kind of like a paradoxical way of thinking about the world, but it's accurate. And so like that's so interesting that this is a rare shot, because like the rare shot that I know of Yosemite in this waterfall is like the light hitting it a certain way.
Firefall?
Yeah. Because that one pops up on Reddit pretty regularly. Fascinating. Okay, let's get to this last banger so we can talk about patience.
Yep.
In Royal Aid, I will cast the prompt afterward.
I think I need to reshare it because there won't be any sound if I do it right now. Reply to chat while I fiddle.
Just imagine there's elevator music I'm dancing to.
All right.
Those are dancing. I have my headphones on. I get out.
He's dancing too.
Yeah.
And then you push through it. Like you push through it because what's the alternative? You're going to leave that idea stuck in your head forever? That sucks. The alternative is you go through life and you had this great idea and nothing came of it because you got tired. And yeah, sometimes you don't go to the party that all your friends are at because the idea is calling to you in that moment. Wait for it's a great example of that. I was on my way to my friend's birthday party when that lyric showed up, when death doesn't discriminate showed up in my head. The idea came on the A down. I started writing it down in the train, in La Quinita of the A train. Break dancers are dancing. I have my headphones on. I get out. The whole chorus comes all at once. I write it down and I suddenly see the shape of the whole song. I was just like, the chorus is Burr. That's who he is. I go into my friend's party. I go, hey, what's up, man? Happy birthday. I gotta go. I get on the L train and I write the rest of the song on the way back home, from the L to the A back up to 207th Street. You do that sometimes.
That's cold as fuck. I love that.
Yeah, and then for those who are listening by audio, that was Lin-Manuel Miranda sharing with a bunch of students about his writing process for Hamilton. Do people know that we're musical nerds?
They do now.
So I know I'm a musical nerd, but I'm always like surprised. I'm like, Cameron, do you know about Hamilton?
Kristen, all right, let's look at the facts. Let me present the facts of the case.
Mm-hmm.
Band kid. For technically not 6 years. So I quit band in the fifth year in my junior year because I got into a fight with my band director.
And we both played the saxophone. Also a coincidence.
Yeah. So started with saxophone. Band director made me play bassoon because there's always too many saxophones.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then for marching band, normal band, like concert band, marching band, jazz band. So I did play jazz band, sax in the jazz band, played bassoon. I was in a quartet with my bassoon as well. Then I joined choir instead because I got into a fight with the band director. He's honestly kind of a creep. And then did that. I played guitar, songwrite, and obviously when you're friends with band kids, choir kids, and drama kids, you're watching some freaking musicals, you know what I mean? And then that's kind of continued. So like I love music. I try to play music, sing, whatever, do every day. So like huge musical nerd. Actually, what's your favorite musical?
Hamilton is pretty up there.
Okay.
But I also like Hairspray a lot, which is like a really random one.
That is.
And specifically, this is even worse. The movie version with James Marsden and Zac Efron.
I mean, how do you not like Zac Efron's one of my favorite actors, by the way.
Oh, another thing I didn't know.
Yeah. There's a relatively niche movie that is actually now I have two favorite Zac Efron movies. Dang it. I just realized that.
Not the one where he's a serial killer?
No. Have you seen... Actually, let's catch up on the chat. No, it's not that cold here for Quan. Tori, I was always jealous of people in band. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from starting an instrument today. But so my two favorite Zac Efron movies are Charlie St. Cloud. I think it is like the perfect what's it called? It's not a rom-com, but it's like the Notebook.
Mm-hmm.
What are those? What genre is that? Hallmark movie?
The women's books with the that kind of cover.
Yeah, like romance kind of thing. Charlie St. Cloud, I think, is like my favorite of that genre. And then I really like the Iron Claw. But that's like a hyper masculine movie.
I've never heard of these movies in my entire life.
I think you would enjoy Charlie St. Cloud. We'll talk about it afterwards. I don't want to get bogged down in this, but Iron Claw is about wrestling. It's like about a family, a wrestling family.
It's romantic drama.
Romantic drama, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Claw is so sad. Basically, this famous wrestling family, like all of them have terrible things happen to them the entire time that they're doing wrestling, but they helped like like pre WWE era wrestling. I don't know if wrestling was a part of your life growing up at all, but like that.
Oh, it was a thing. Like I also played the PS game,
Right,
so I had
right.
to learn all the moves. You know, the people's elbow and stuff.
Hell yeah. Oh, we were talking about musicals.
Yeah, which WWE is drag. It's kind of it's like musical for like tough looking people.
I saw a TikTok the other day, and it was a drag queen, and they were talking about like giant jacked up trucks with big old diesel fumes and giant like loud horns and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like monster trucks.
Yeah, well, not like monster trucks, although that's like a version of it. It's like someone gets like a like F-250 or whatever. It's like a giant truck, and they were just like, that's just masculine drag. It's like the hyper exaggerated version of like traditionally masculine characteristics.
Yeah.
And they're just like, if that's what is gender affirming care for you, go for it. And I was just like, damn, that's pretty funny.
That is really good. And speaking of patience in drag, like someone I think of right away is Chappell Roan. Like,
yes.
Again, I feel like we don't know at this point whether she is actually a manufactured pop star. I feel like maybe they've gotten so good at like manufacturing things that this seems so genuine. But if it is genuine, her story is that like it took her 10 years of almost like completely failing as a pop star before she's like a meteoric rise today. And all of her performance is based on drag performances. And then I think of that one thing of patience. It's like, whew, we're in year one, Cameron.
So maybe reframing the 10 years of almost failing, which is like a very good story. I kind of consider that 10 years of practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yes. And like, then how many people are out there who we don't even know?
Yeah. Like, I mean, we had an episode about practice, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, we talked a little bit about like what makes good practice. I think like the key differentiator isn't just doing the same thing a bunch of times. It's like critically analyzing what you're doing and how to like make it a better version of what you care about. And so that's like the big thing. Ooh, Tori's got a good question here. Have you seen this, Kristen? Do you know what this is referencing?
No.
So have you watched the Smarty Pants about wrestling is drag? So Smarty Pants
is this a podcast?
It's a show on Dropout.tv, which
I'm so behind on Dropout.
I think it's fair to say
my biggest inspos though.
Okay, Banger's a big fan of Dropout. Like
this is our version of Dropout shows.
Honestly, yeah. The Dream Collab
I just
sponsored by
be
Dropout.
like a Jess Ross type.
Yo, what if we become a show on Dropout in 5 years? That would be nuts.
That would be so nuts.
Okay, so this is pretty honest and vulnerable and kind of cringe, but like I watch like content and a lot of the times I'm like, dude, I feel like they would be really fun to be friends with. And like part of like doing this is like like putting out, manifesting into the universe, becoming friends with the content creators that I actually really enjoy and think are clever and funny and smart.
Yeah, and then I feel like Dropout did a really good job with like selling friendship in a way, like because like like if you watch enough of like College Humor and stuff like that, you feel like the cast, and then some of them do these like ridiculous insane reality shows. Gosh, like that one with about paying off student loans. Do you remember that series?
I don't actually.
Pay off student loans.
But so Smosh does this really well too. And they have like Smosh has a really interesting old YouTube tie with Ian and Anthony. Did you watch Smosh when you were younger?
I'm a little too old.
Yeah, that was very much like, I'll say emo adjacent. Anthony was like an emo icon for a little while. All right, but this is going off the rails. You find the what you're looking for?
Yes, so it was a show called Total Forgiveness with Grant O'Brien and Ali Beardsley. And you get to find out
what
like
pair?
Huh?
What a pair. That's an interesting pair.
It is, and then you kind of like find out like they dare each other into doing things to pay off the student loans, because literally their cars are falling apart. This is living in LA, where if you don't have a car, then you can't really go anywhere, and like literally Allie's exhaust pipe is like strewn on the ground, and you're just like, what is going on,
bro?
And like, Grant dares her to there's them. He there's a pronoun up there. I can't keep up.
I guess at that time, maybe not.
Yeah, where like they have to sing the national anthem in front of a live minor league game. They can't sing.
That's so funny.
Oh, yeah. So I feel like that's the patience of like developing a show like that takes like so much content for you to get to know the other person's struggles. Which we're trying to leak out to all of you in the chat. We can't tell over many episodes.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to ask, like, has your view on the concept of patience changed in the past year?
Yes, because I'm doing harder and harder things. Because I feel like patience is easier if you're doing things that are within comfortable challenge.
Yeah.
But the moment we're doing harder things, then expectations go haywire. And I think without expectations, it is easier to be patient. But if you go too much of that, then there's no goals.
Yeah. I mean, like, patience is really like a mismatch between your expectations and like the reality, which is
100%.
Yeah. Like that's interesting. What about harder things makes it harder to be patient? Because like off the cuff, that feels like, oh, if it's harder, of course it's going to take longer to work.
Right? You would think that would be a normal way of thinking about it, I think. But I think what's happening is counterintuitive. It's like, okay, I want to achieve this harder goal, and I want it sooner because it feels like, oh God, if I don't like hurry along, the timeline it takes to achieve a harder goal is longer. So therefore, I have to be impatient to rush myself to hurry up to achieve it, right? Whereas if it's an easier goal, you can kind of take your time. This is all like abstract and imaginary. I feel like the goal is just sitting here going, I'm just here. And I'm just like, you're harder or you're easier.
Okay. So reflecting that back, it kind of feels like it's not patience about not achieving the goal. It's kind of like impatience at not getting a dopamine loop reward in the interim.
Correct. Which is our favorite theme of the show.
Well, so, okay. But like that's kind of an easy fix, quotation mark, where like you just got to set sub goals that you can hit so you can, manipulate yourself into feeling okay.
This is, I feel like I need Grug GPT to do it for me. This is once you give me that Grug prompt, my next prompt is going to be like, I want to achieve this. Can you break it down to me into mini goals? I will buy a little jar with little pebbles in it.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good idea for like a little creator app.
Oh, it is. Oh yeah.
So we have that little page on Seymour. I might spend 2 hours to make a little GPT on that. That
right. And I think like
I don't have like a notepad right now. Chat, send me a cast afterwards. Tell me to make Grug GPT.
Oh, Grug GPT for creators. I'm taking notes for you. But yes, my unsolicited live feedback for the new Seymour's List features is that you gotta Grug and hold our hand, because I can see that you give me the list of people and the DM button, but then I'm like, what I say? That's super awkward.
If you tap the DM button, it already has preloaded text in there. I don't know if you've tapped
I noticed that, but I feel like the things are a little bit hard to send.
Yeah, so what we're gonna like, maybe I'll do this today. I just don't know if we're gonna get the back end together. I'm gonna have a little 0 out of 5 at the top, and every time you tap the DM button, it'll add the counter. So like the next few steps in the Seymour List are going to be like the breadcrumb trail of like, hey, this is Kristen's most recent cast. Reply to it. instead of like just DM them, because DMing is kind of like
oh, thank God. Yeah, please. More natural behavior. It's not like
yeah.
Yeah, I see a few great replies here. Relatable. My life is falling apart, always falling apart, said Tori Stories, while I'm having to address something else falling apart. Ugh.
Tori, let it fall apart, or let some things fall apart.
That's actually really great advice. Yes, the letting, like, it's a catching a knife as it's falling kind of situation.
Yeah, so we
just let the knife fall.
I mean, this is I don't think this is a military metaphor exclusively, but like thinking of things in your life as glass balls and rubber balls is really, really powerful. Like you're juggling a ton of different things all the time. There are certain things that are like glass balls that you can't drop because they're like it is catastrophic. Lots of things in your life, a lot more things than you expect, are rubber balls. Like if you drop them, they're gonna go off somewhere, and you're gonna have to like pick it up out of the corner, and it's kind of annoying. Shout out to my jugglers in the chat if anybody juggles. I do.
You're sending me into existential crisis.
But like, let more things drop that you know for sure aren't gonna like break as soon as they hit the ground, because you'll be surprised at like how many things in your life you can just like not really deal with for at least a little while. That like, but like it fills you with anxiety to do that, especially the first time. But like, you know, I've had people in my life that I thought were kind of glass balls, but they're actually rubber balls, because once they realized they couldn't just like rely on me to solve all their shit, they found somebody else to do it.
Yeah, maybe it's really what Tudorizer said. Isn't it the other way around? Lack of patience is a wrong assessment of the difficulty of the goal. No. Are you French? No, at the end.
I think what is like left unsaid in there, or like what is assumed in there, is that we're perfectly rational beings that like once we understand like the scope of something, we don't feel anxiety anymore. And in fact, I think it's often the opposite. Because like
once we understand it, we do feel anxiety.
Yeah. Like I think so. I mean, we can use the Colin Powell like known unknowns, known knowns, unknown unknowns kind of world. Like most things live in this like known or like known unknown category, where you're like you have sums like between those two states of like
right.
I have a semblance that this okay banger being successful is probably going to take years. But like knowing it takes years also means that you know that you every show have to be doing something to get to that like 2 year from now show quality that we're going to have. And so like knowing what you have to do, I think sometimes makes me more anxious. Usually not.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Or maybe it's more accurate to say changing the scope of like what is the unknown part of it just creates like 10 unknowns as opposed to one big unknown. So now I worry about 10 things that I don't know versus this one big one that I've already kind of identified as like a black box.
Yeah, so, and did Colin Powell rip off the Johari window? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, explain that. Explain that.
Like I need to pull it up, but then so Cameron and I were chatting about this newsletter I'm trying to get out by today, and something that I struggle with is what was I struggling with? You explain back to me what I was trying to say while I share my window.
You were trying to have the Kristen that you feel is real and authentic and interesting. You were struggling with other people seeing what you believed about yourself to be true.
So that is under 3, right? Facade.
Yeah, you basically think like other people see you in bucket 1, which is this open area. You see yourself in this bucket 3, and you're trying to get more of the good things from bucket 3 into bucket 1.
Right. So in the newsletter, it's a little vulnerable. In fact, I'm going to talk about the show in the last episode, where like it's kind of good that Cameron accidentally hit the end stream because you were asking me what games I like to play. I said, oh, you know, The Sims, you go from 0 to 1. And then you were like, yeah, is it because, you know, in your childhood, you always feel like you had to do 0 to 1 by yourself, which kind of you like also accidentally said today on a stream earlier. And I was like, oh my God, like that was too real. And like, I'm
not trying to destroy your flow with these questions.
Which, I secretly love, but I'm also always like, in this like dynamic tension for all of you, right? Where I'm like, oh, that is so real. But I'm like, this show's supposed to be funny. Like, I'm gonna cry. Like, so I think like there is this thing that I'm trying to figure out, which is so interesting, but it's like so scary because in a meta level, by sharing this vulnerability, like I have like this scissor effect of like people going, oh my god, is this like The Office, where it's so cringe that some people like who hate cringe stuff will never watch it because it's like you watch the other person be uncomfortable and you become uncomfortable, which is actually me. I don't really like cringe comedy. But I want to like show that like this is more real because a show that's only about laughs and surface stuff is also not interesting to me.
So I think, oh man, there's so many interesting things in that. The first one being the kids love cringe. Like they nothing.
Is our chat? Do you identify with kids?
Like, okay, so I mean, if we want to be in this for a minute, we got to understand what the kids want to.
Okay.
But like, I'm not saying that we go and do like intentionally cringe stuff, but like the amount of people that are making like freestyle rap content, like like intentionally terrible freestyle. Like, there's one guy who just blew up overnight. And his only bar in his freestyle that he just says over and over again is Jake Paul, Logan Paul making out. Like, I want to see Jake Paul and Logan Paul make it. It's so funny. And then like, I don't know if you've seen this. They also have like cringe battles where a group of friends will kind of like line up, like it's like an improv game, and they'll like try to do the cringiest thing and make each other break and laugh. It's great. I love the internet.
Oh, okay. Thank you for updating me on what kids are into these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna hit with the 11-year-old demographic at some point.
Okay. But and also according to YouTube analytics, which you can improve by subscribing and liking. I'm trying to see whether the like button lights up on mobile, because I noticed that when people say like the thing in some videos, the little thing does highlight. So let us know if you see the like button highlight. But according to analytics, most of people who are watching OK Banger are younger than me and Cameron.
Oh, dang. I didn't even look at that yet.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. Well, okay. So then I might make our edits a little cringier.
Yes. Please increase the cringe levels.
Okay. But so this is a distraction. The important part. Kristen.
It's all distraction.
I think authenticity that is self-aware isn't cringe. Like, unself-aware authenticity can be very cringe, right? Like Orange County authenticity can be very cringe. But the thing that we're trying to do is kind of help people, I think, body double authenticity, or
body double cringe. Yeah.
Like, because if we can talk about our personal garbage and like work through it and have fun along the way, I hope other people can kind of see that. And
right.
I mean, like we've talked about this. My kind of personal mission is to get like younger dudes to be less toxic about how they're approaching their mental health and probably body image and other things like that.
It's sadly quite needed in our favorite social platform due to recent events.
Yeah. And so like I think that there's a lot of young people in general, but like especially young dudes that are in this like in-between state where they like don't exist anywhere. They don't have a place, especially if they're like a young white guy. Like, that's like a punching bag on the internet, but also the response to making that be like you got to live the rest of your life, and you can't just like read listen. Actually, no one's reading. You can't just listen to 100 stoicism podcasts and then shut out the rest of the world. Like, that's not going to lead to a fulfilling life generally.
So,
but so in your case, I think the whole conversation we had kind of missed the point that I was trying to communicate to you, in that you don't need to selectively pick the good parts to show other people, because like, I mean, I know you, like you and I have talked to each other maybe more than anybody else except our like life partners. And like you are
Oh, and
funny
at times you are getting updates before my wife gets.
Same. And so like you are authentically funny and thoughtful and compassionate and intelligent. And so like I think it's less about how do you show other people that like intentionally, and more about like how do you get comfortable enough with what you're doing to just be.
So that's true. I think like in the case of this Substack, in fact, the feedback I received from like kind friends is you're actually almost in a way not vulnerable enough. Like you're in this like awkward in between zone. But my issue is actually technical because of the patience needed from your audience. Like I feel like super long Substacks, like I'm like scrolling down to be like, okay, where's the freaking like button? I'll just press that and be done with my day. So like having to compress something that's vulnerable into a really short piece is very tricky to some extent. And then that's the part where I don't know, like how would we deal with like the short attention span / lack like reduced patience from the audience.
I mean, so somebody had a really good cast the other day, and it was like, if something is good, it should be short. If something is bad, it needs to be short.
Oh, okay.
and so
wait,
like,
how does that help me?
I think it's a question of what do you really want to communicate? Because like, I mean, if we're being super real, you and I both have like a bit of narcissism that like is part of the reason why we are on the internet yapping, right?
Right,
like,
right. Y'all are helping me process my trauma of not being seen and heard by watching this show.
Just look at me.
Thank you.
No, but like, so we both have that, and we're both like kind of self-aware about it. But the like, nobody owes us attention, and so if we want to communicate stuff, I think if we can, I think we got to break it down to like the atomic units of the of the thing. And like that's part of the magic of the one word titles, in that we have to keep going back to this concept of patience for this episode, because like that's the promise that we made people that we talk about. And the tricky thing with patience is that you can't rush it. And so like the thing that we're doing to try to get all of our ideas down into these like bite-sized or atomic nuggets, yes, in the moment, it is sacrificing nuance, right? Because like we can't talk about for 2 hours the thing that we're trying to talk about, or like a bunch of all the things we want to talk about. But that's okay, because if we break it down to the atomic unit or the soul or the essence of the thing, and we do that well, then we get potentially infinite atomic units that other people will share. And so we get the nuance through the longitudinal version of the show, that like we have to have patience that the nuance is going to come through by us continuing to do the thing, I think.
How come Joe Rogan can go on for 3 hours and people will keep listening?
I mean, because a lot of the listeners are smoking weed and not actively listening.
Not that we're encouraging all of you to do that, but
yeah. And the other thing is like, I think the value of that show, and frankly the Lex Friedman show and other things like that, like that kind of show is a different value prop than what we're doing right now. I think we'll eventually do kind of those vibey kind of streams, but like what we do is closer to Hot Ones, in that it's like a concentrated dose of authenticity, as opposed to these like marathon ones where people become authentic as a result of running out of all of their like talk tracks and like bullet points to say. Like you can't be on a podcast for 8 hours and lie or like posture the whole time, because like you just run out of posture.
Right. You wear people down.
Exactly.
It's almost like an interrogation technique.
Yeah, and Tudorizer's right. Like a lot of those are like baity, in the sense that like the dopamine release is the situation, right? You know, like having on an anti-vaxxer or something like that, like stirs up all of the kind of like fight or flight responses that people have about stuff on the internet. And so like, I don't know, it's a little bit like podcasting on steroids, maybe, if we call that the old mic. Like it's
So I was experimenting with the new messaging. I was a bit annoyed that an AI called Ask Gina was better at writing copy than I was. So I was trying to do something a little different. But,
Kristen, I disagree. I disagreed with that cast. I just like wasn't gonna you know, put it in like. Gina isn't better at writing copy.
I know. I was just kidding. But like today I was experimenting with like is OK Banger the show that you watch when you're trying to do something patient? Like, you know, like you're grinding through all your business tasks or your chores or your laundry, because in a way where like that background motivational podcast.
It's a good question. I don't know if I can answer that. Chat, like what do y'all think? Because like we're still figuring out the identity of the show.
I feel like a lot of this is actually like for those who are listening, not live.
Yeah, no, for real.
Because I think there's actually quite a few folks who are, well, maybe they're listening on a TV or something. They're not in the chat, but I think that's one way in which I would feel good about usage of time if we're like some sort of background thing while you're able to get stuff done. Because I think like fundamentally, because we're a show for serious creators who don't take themselves too seriously, like one issue is actually just time to get your work done.
Yeah.
And that's also why we made this co-working playlist for you.
Oh yeah, we did do that.
Yeah. So we if you subscribe to our channel and also check out playlists, we have a playlist of our favorite work background music, if that's supportive to your work.
And we'll keep adding to it. Like that's like it is part of my like I'm always looking for new playlists to work to. And so too. I got one in the hopper actually. It's a it's like an early 2000s video game drum and bass ambient playlist. So I'm pretty excited to add it to the work playlist. Chris, I don't know if you saw this from Tori. This is a very, very nice comment. I'm glad that it makes you feel that you're sitting there together as IRL friends, because like, I mean, at some point we can't credibly say we're friends with everybody in the chat, right? Like eventually we get to a size where that's like, honestly, a parasocial lie. But for now, I think it is generally true that like we're interacting with everybody on Farcaster primarily, but also in the chat and like excited to do so.
Exactly. And then, you know, I think we actually DC quite a lot of folks about creator stuff, like you because of Seymour, and then like me because I'm busybody. so you know, we're also here to support and all of that, because that's the whole point of the show, is for us to tribally get through the content creator grind together.
Pointedly, if you are thinking about creator stuff, DM one of us if you want any, like, even if you just want to write it down and have someone like respond, because we'll do that.
Yeah. And I noticed quite a lot of folks who don't even identify with that label yet.
Yeah.
On that like pivoting point, and we're also here to chat with you through all of that as well.
Yeah, Kristen, as we think back on what we have accomplished in the past hour, is there anything that you're going to be thinking about going into the weekend and early next week in regards to patience?
Grug GPT.
Grug GPT.
I'm going to play
Be dumber. Be dumber with your goal setting.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Stuart Reed, Tori, Tutorizer, Jeff joining us last minute.
Woo!
Jacob. So many friends here. Royal.
Love that. Thank you all for dropping by.
Be patient with yourself.